Hi, this is Ali Arango of Little Guy CGI, and today I would like to show you how to make a droid or robot in Blender 2.78c. So let's get started. Okay, if this is your first time in Blender, I recommend you go to File, User Preferences, go to Input, and then choose Select with left click. Blender's default select is with right click, and this may confuse you if you're coming from Adobe programs or other 3D programs. While you're in User Preferences, click on Add-ons. Make sure you put a check mark next to 3D View: 3D Navigation. Then scroll down. Put a check mark next to Mesh: F2, Mesh: Inset Polygon, Mesh: Loot Tools, as well as Mesh: Relax. Scroll down more. Then put a check mark next to Pie Menu: 3D Viewport Pie Menus. Also put a check mark next to Pie Menu UI Pie Menu Official. Okay, when you first come into Blender, you see this cube here. You are also in object mode. To manipulate your view, if you look over to your left, if you click on the navigation tab, you can click these buttons right here to manipulate your view inside of Blender. There's also other buttons as well that help you manipulate your view in Blender. When you hold your middle mouse button, you can rotate your view. When you hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button, you can pan the view. You can zoom in by rolling the mouse one direction, and then if you roll the mouse another direction, you'll zoom out. You also can hold Control as well as hold the middle mouse button and then push in with your mouse, and then while still holding Control, pull your mouse back to zoom back. Okay, currently we're in object mode. In object mode, you tend to move objects around. You don't tend to do a lot of modeling inside of object mode. You tend to do most of your modeling inside of edit mode. So when you look here, you can see we're in object mode. What we want to do now is click here and then click here to go into edit mode. Okay, here in edit mode, we can now manipulate our object fairly easily. We're going to mainly manipulate this object, which is our cube here, by selecting vertex or vertices here, edges here, or faces here. And these are the different components that objects in Blender tend to be made up of. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click front to go to front view. When you look here, you can see we're in perspective mode. There's two different types of modes as far as viewing things. Perspective lets you see things in more of a 3D kind of view, where orthographic kind of makes things look more like a blueprint kind of view. So here you can see we're in front perspective. We want to be in front orthographic. So we're going to click here, see where it says view perspective / ortho. So we click here. Now you can see this says front ortho, which means we're in orthographic mode. And from this grid, you can see that this object looks like it's almost 2D. And the reason why you use orthographic mode is because it tends to be very easy to work in for certain instances. So you kind of like go into orthographic mode and out of orthographic mode. Like if I hold my middle mouse button, we're on more of a 3D viewport angle. And then I'll click here to go right back. Okay, so with this cube selected, the first thing we want to do is press W. This brings up our specials menu. We then want to go to subdivide smooth, so we'll left click here. Once we did that, our cube was subdivided, which means basically the main block was given a bunch of different faces, which makes you have what you see right here. When you look over to your left, see where it says number of cuts, 1, and then you see it says 1 right here. We want to take this up to 3. And for those who have watched tutorials here before, as well as those who haven't, basically what we're going to do, we're going to make a basic humanoid male shape, and then once we have that shape, we're going to work that into our droid or robot form. Okay, what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. We're going to make sure we're on vertices select. This right here is going to become the basis for our head. In front orthographic mode, see right here, there's 1, 2, 3 vertices there. You don't want those ones. There's the next row. There's these ones here. You don't want those ones. You want these right here. So you're going to left click here, hold shift, and then while holding shift, select these 3 vertices. With those 3 vertices selected, you're going to click here to go to right view. Here in right view, what you're going to do is press the O key. This turns on a tool that is called the proportional editing tool. The proportional editing tool allows you to manipulate more than one vertice, edge, or face at a time. Okay, so with these 3 vertices selected, as well as the proportional editing tool turned on, we're going to press G. When we press G, see that circle that popped up? That circle allows us to see the area of influence of our proportional editing tool. If I roll my mouse wheel one direction, the area of influence will shrink. If I roll the other direction, the area of influence will grow. So what you want to do is pull these 3 vertices, and then as you're pulling, you want to roll your mouse wheel to adjust your the area of influence of your proportional editing tool. So what I'm basically doing is that bottom point that we have selected where we have the 3 vertices, that basically is the chin of this head. So as I move my mouse, I'm looking like, how do I want the chin to look? Right above, right inside of the area of influence, a little bit back, is the neck area. So what I do is I roll the mouse wheel, like see when I rolled it there, kind of like the back flat part of the head, that's where our neck's going to come out of. So I kind of like look at that and I'm like, okay, I think that's flat enough for how I want. And that's how I make my decisions on how I want this initial shape to be. So now I'm going to left click because I'm fine with this. And the reason why I'm fine with this is because we have the chin here. Then we have this area here. We'll be able to pull a neck out right here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to click here to go to face select. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in. If we look here, we can see the proportional editing tool is still on. I'm going to press O to turn that off. And I pressed O, you can see that's now off. I'm now going to hover my mouse here, press C, which activates paint select. Paint select allows us to select by painting vertices, edges, or faces. So I'm going to left click and drag and select these 8 faces right here. I'm then going to right click to get out of paint select. Okay, now with these faces selected, I'm going to click here to go back to right view. I'm going to hold control as well as hold my middle mouse button to smoothly zoom out. I'm going to press E to extrude, and see that line that popped up when we pressed extrude? That line is showing us how we're going to extrude our faces out. Extrude is when you make new geometry in Blender. So because we pressed E to extrude, now we can just pull these new faces out right along that preview line. So we're going to pull it out to about here. I'm then going to left click to lock that extrude in. Okay, now what we're going to do is hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We want to make this, for lack of a better word, thicker or fatter. So we're going to press S to scale. S to scale is how you make things bigger. What we want to do is we want this to scale in every axis but Z. So what we're going to do is we pressed S, and you can see that dotted line is showing us that we're ready to scale as soon as we pull our mouse. We're going to hold shift and then press Z and then pull. And what this is doing is scaling on every axis except for Z. So now I'm going to left click to lock that scale in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, so now with the neck thickened or fattened or however you want to call it, we're going to hover our mouse right here. One of the very important things, whether you're working in Blender or other 3D programs, is putting loop tools into your mesh work. So with our mouse hovered here, we're going to hold control, and then while holding control, we're going to press R, and you can see there's a loop cut preview. That's what just popped up there. So that's not the loop cut yet. That's Blender saying, look, if you left click right now, I'm going to put a loop cut right here. So what we can do is roll the mouse wheel once, and by doing that, now we have another loop cut. So there's, well, I should say another loop cut preview. So we're going to left click one time. Because we left click one time, we can move these loop cuts. We're going to pull down just slightly. We're then going to left click a second time. When we left click the second time, we actually lock these loop cuts in to our mesh. Okay, now with these two edge loops selected, because now they're edge loops, we loop cut to get these edge loops in. Now they're edge loops. So now what we want to do is scale these in. So we want to scale these in on every axis except for the Z axis. So we have X, Y, Z. We want to scale in on every axis except for the Z. So we press S to scale, and then we hold Shift, and then while holding Shift, we press Z. So then what Blender's showing you right there is we're going to scale on every axis with the exception of Z. So now we push in, and this is a nice quick way to form the neck, and then we left click to lock that in, and then we're going to press A to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We're doing this so we can see this area right here. What we want to do is we're going to go to face select by clicking here. We're then going to hover here, press C for paint select, and then select these faces right here. I'm then going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to click here to go to front view, and then I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis 0, and then left click to lock that in. And that's just a technique to quickly straighten out geometry as far as it going up and down. And what I did to straighten out that geometry was I pressed S to scale on the Z axis and then 0. And I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, as we work on our mesh, and generally as you work in 3D, you want to take advantage of the 3D software that you're using. So what we want to do is we want to shorten our workload by effectively only having to work on half of the geometry here. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to press Z, then we're going to select wireframe. The reason why we came to wireframe was if we try to select what we're about to do, we want to select all of this half of this geometry right here. If we try to select this geometry while this was in solid view, we would only select the visible geometry. So to select the front of this head as well as the back that you currently wouldn't be able to see if this was in solid view, we go to wireframe view. So with that done, we make sure we're on face select, which we can look here and see that we are. We hover our mouse around here. The reason why I say hover your mouse here is we're going to draw a box, and you can see, like, if we put it here and draw the box, it's very easy for us to select this half of the head. If we start right here, it just seems more difficult. So you're going to hover your mouse around here. You're going to press B for box select. You're going to left click and drag a little bit past the center point, and then you're going to have this whole half selected, which is what we want. Okay, now with half of this geometry selected, what we want to do is press the X button to bring up our delete menu. We then want to select faces to delete. And then now with half of this geometry deleted, what we want to do is click on this wrench, which will take us to our modifier panel where we can add modifiers. So we're going to click here, and then we're going to click here to add a mirror modifier. Now when we clicked on that mirror modifier, Blender put a mirror modifier, which is basically giving us virtual geometry on this side of our mesh. What we can do now is click here, which will make it look like this virtual geometry is our actual geometry. And then what we want to do is put a check mark here for clipping so that this virtual geometry won't pull apart from this actual geometry here. Okay, if you're sitting there and you're like, why in the world would we want to cut the mesh in half? The reason why we want to cut the mesh in half is because in 3D, we often tend to work on bisymmetrical meshes, which basically, bisymmetrical, what I mean is think 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, right? So with bisymmetrical meshes, what's on this side will tend to be on that side anyway. So by using a mirror modifier, we effectively can reduce our workload to about half, since whatever we do on this half will be also represented on this half. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press Z, and then we're going to select solid. So with our mirror modifier on, we have our basic head and our basic neck shape formed. We're going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We're going to make sure we're on face select, which we are. We're going to press C for paint select, and then select all of these faces right here again. We're then going to right click to get out of face select, then click here to go back to front view. Okay, now with these bottom faces selected, what we're going to do is hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. Now we're going to press E to extrude. See that line right there is showing us how we're going to extrude down. Sometimes I'll press Z and then the line will go away. I'll press Z again and the line will come right back. This is basically our upper body that we're forming right here. So I'm going to left click to lock in that extrusion right there. I'm now going to press A to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is hover our mouse here. We're going to hold Control, then while holding Control, press R. We're going to roll our mouse wheel one time to have two loop cut previews in. We're going to left click one time. Because we only left click one time, we can move these loop cuts. We're going to move them up slightly. We're then going to left click a second time to totally lock those loop cuts in. We're then going to press A to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is we are going to make sure we're on face select. We're going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We're going to click here, hold Shift, and then click here. We could have used C for paint select. I just chose to use Shift this time. I'll tend to go back between paint select by using C or holding Shift to select multiple faces, depending on what comes to my mind at the time. So with this selected, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate back. We're going to pull out, and basically this gives us kind of like the semblance of a torso. You can kind of see like where our shoulders are going to go just from, pulling out these two faces right there. I just held the middle mouse button to rotate. Okay, now we're going to press A to deselect. We're still on face select, which is good. I'm going to hold Shift, and then while holding Shift, click here. You want to select just these faces right here. The reason why I'm doing this is I'm going to hold them in the mouse button and turn to the side. See how flat that is, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to push forward some like this, just making this not so flat. And then with that being like that, what we're going to do is press A to deselect. We're going to go to Edge Select. And then with Edge Select, we're going to click here. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. The main reason I did that was just to move this mesh in view so this manipulator wasn't in the way, so I could now hold Shift and then click right here. So now I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view back some. Okay, with these edges selected, I'm going to push here to push that in. I'm now going to press A to deselect. I'm then going to click here to go to vertice select. Okay, so with vertice select, the reason why I am going to vertice select, see how close these vertices are right here. See how the body's bending here? This line is straight. So what I want to do is select this vertice and then push this vertice away from that vertice right there. Is basically my thought process right now. Now I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, so now we have the basic form of this torso. So we're going to click here to go back to face select. We're going to press C for paint select. And we can I just left clicked right there. And then I'm going to left click right here. I'm then going to right click. I selected this because if you look, this is pretty thick for the side of the torso. So with these faces here selected, we're going to press S to scale on the Y axis like this. Then we're going to left click to lock in. And that kind of like rounds out the front, rounds out the back of this torso, and just makes things a little bit better proportioned. So I'm just holding the middle mouse button just to take a look now. I'm now going to press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom in. See how this is, very square here. I'm going to go to vertice select. I'm going to click here, and I'm thinking about when we're going to make the arms come out, the shoulders come out, as well as the arms. So I'm just, giving that a little bit of shape right there. Just thinking about that, even though that's not what we're going to work on right now. So now I'm going to press A to deselect that vertice right there. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. Sometimes people might say, why do you use Control as well as holding the middle mouse button to zoom in and zoom out? It tends to give me a smoother zoom. We can roll the mouse wheel in and roll the mouse wheel out, but the controls tend to be smoother, so I tend to zoom like that, for that reason. Anyway, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm going to this time roll the mouse wheel to zoom in. I'm going to roll it again to zoom in some more. See these vertices right here, how they're kind of like bunched up there? I'm going to click here. I'm going to rotate the view just so I can get a clearer view of what back is, if that makes sense, because I want to pull these vertices back. So I'm going to pull these vertices back right here. The way these vertices here are bunched up, I don't like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. There's a fairly easy way to deal with that. I'm going to go to edge select. I'm going to click here, hold shift, and then while holding shift, click here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to press S to scale and the Y axis 0, and then left click to lock that in. I'm then going to press A to deselect, and that technique works very well for when you're dealing with things that are curved along the Y axis. So with that done, I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm then going to click here to go to face select. I'm going to press C for paint select. Then I'm going to click and select right here, these 4 faces. I'm then going to right click to get out of paint select. Okay, with these 4 faces selected, I'm going to click here to go back to front view. Then I'm going to press E to extrude on the Z axis. So when I press Z, we actually had, when I pressed E the first time, there was a preview line. Press Z, it disappeared. We can just press Z again to bring it back. And we're going to pull this down about like that, and then left click to lock in. I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view. This is very flat. We don't want that, so we don't want it flat like this. We also don't want it like this. So what we're going to do is press S to scale on the X axis like this. I press S to scale on the X axis like that some more. Now I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view. We don't want this, wide like that. So we're going to press S to scale on the Y axis here like this. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. Be careful that you don't have any of your lines cross over when you're doing this. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, now we need a loop cut right here. We're going to hold control, then while holding control, press R. I'm then going to left click once. Because I left click once, I can move this loop cut. I'm going to move it up slightly like that. I'm then going to left click a second time. I'm then going to press S to scale on the Y axis like this. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view. What we want to do now is delete these faces right here. Okay, so how do we go about deleting these faces? We have to select them. So we're going to go to face select. And now with face select, we're going to press C for paint select, and we'll click and then click again. We have all those faces selected. I'll right click to get out of paint select now. Okay, now I'll press X to bring up our delete menu. Then I'll choose faces to delete. What we want to do now is we want to go to edge select. We're going to click here. I'm going to hold control as well as I'm in the mouse button to zoom in. I'm going to hold shift, and then while holding shift, I'm going to click this edge right here. If this manipulator gets in your way and blocks you from selecting edges, you can actually click right here, which will temporarily take away the manipulator. And then, if it's in your way, you can just select what you want without having to be concerned about it blocking you. Then you can click here again, and then the manipulator will be right back. So with this selected here, I'm going to click here to go to front view. Okay, with that edge selected, what you want to do is press E to extrude, and then pull this edge to the side like this. What you want to be thinking when you pull this edge to the side is, we're going to put a face right here, and you want this edge that's going to be on the bottom of this face to be on the upward slant right here. So what I'm going to do now is press A to deselect. I'm then going to click here to go to vertices select. I'm going to click here, and then hold shift, and then click here, and then still holding shift, click here, then still holding shift, click here. So now with those 4 vertices selected, I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view. I've rotated the view just because I wanted to make sure I had these 4 faces right here in front selected. So with those selected, I'm going to press F to fill in a face right here. So now I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view. We're still on vertices select, which is good. I'm now going to click here, hold shift, click here, then click here, and then click here. With those 4 faces selected, I'm going to press F to fill in the a face, for the vertices that we just had selected. So then I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold control as well as pull the mouse wheel back. What we want to do now is I'm holding the mouse button just to get a view so I can select this whole edge right there. The way we're going to select that whole edge is first we're going to go to edge select. We're then going to hold the Alt key. Because we're holding the Alt key, when we click on the edge right here, we select that entire edge loop. So I let go of the Alt key. We have this edge loop selected, and that is what we want because we want to start to extrude the legs out here. So what we're going to do is click here to go to front view. Okay, so in front view with that edge selected, we're going to press E to extrude on the Z axis and then pull straight down just like this. We're then going to left click to lock in that extrude. We're going to pull out to the side like this, just using our manipulator. I want this to be straight here, so what I'm going to do is press S to scale on the Z axis 0, and then I'm going to left click to lock that scale in. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. See how this is kind of square looking? We can easily change this using the loop tools, which is what we are going to do. However, if by some chance you have some type of issue where your loop tools don't pop up, you can manually do what we're doing right here, or you can leave this like here. I tend to think this looks better with a circular shape. The loop tools is just going to make what we're about to do faster, but you can do this manually. How would you do it manually? You would just go to vertice select and just, pull each vertice to make this more circular. What we're going to do is and you should have it in your loop tools, what we're about to do, as long as you followed what I said in the beginning of this tutorial, when I was telling you which add-ons to click on inside of your user preferences. Okay, so what we're going to do is press W. This brings up our specials menu. We're then going to go to loop tools. We're going to left click and then see where it says circle. We're going to left click circle. And then what that did was that just made this into a circular shape. We don't need the loop tools to make this in a circular shape. I just used the loop tools to do this for the sake of speed. Again, you can manually go to vertice select and manually take each vertice and then put this, this being this edge, into this particular shape. Okay, so now what we're going to do is hold the middle mouse button to go to the side. Okay, so when you are forming your legs out, do not make the mistake and think that when legs come out of a torso, they go straight down. When you first bring the top part of your legs out, what you want to do is take your manipulator and actually push forward some like that. So with our first part of our legs being pushed forward, now we can hold the mouse button and then come back towards the front. Now we can press E to extrude on the Z axis, come down to about here, and then left click to lock that extrusion in. Typically when you are working on legs, remember that often when you scale legs, you're going to have to look at the front, towards the front, and then scale, for width, and then you're going to have to turn to the side and then scale for width facing the sides. So with this edge loop selected, we're going to press S to scale on the X axis just like that. We're then going to left click to lock that in. Now we're going to hold the middle mouse button to turn to the side. We don't want this to be this wide like this. I just held the middle mouse button to rotate the view again. We're going to press S to scale on the Y axis on the side like this. And see how we wanted, like here's the where our legs are coming out. This goes forward. That's what we want. This right here, we actually want to go back. And we kind of want this to be underneath the body here. So we're going to pull this back like this. So now we're going to hold the mouse button to rotate back towards the front. We're now going to bring out our knees. So we're going to press E to extrude on the Z axis and then come down about like this. And then left click to lock that extrusion in. Okay, now we're going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. And then with the knees as well, when you do your knee, this bottom part of the knee, you do not want this underneath the top part. You want to pull this back like that. It doesn't have to be exact, but you generally, do not want the knee to come straight down. You want to make sure you pull that back. So now with that done, you're going to hold the mouse button to rotate back towards the front. You want to hold control, hold, not control. You want to hold shift in the mouse button to pan up. We're going to press E to extrude on the Z axis like this. We're basically from like the calf area now. We're going to left click to lock that in. We're going to press S to scale on the X axis here. We're going to left click to lock that in. We're going to hold them in the mouse button. We're then going to press S to scale on the Y axis like this. We're then going to left click to lock that in. This front part of what we're making, like the calf area called, you do not want this front part being in front of the knee. So you're going to take your manipulator and then pull back like this. So with that done, I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to turn back towards the front. As you're working through this, you want to get your basic shapes right. Don't be too concerned about the length of proportions here. We can fairly easily change that later. We want to make sure we have our basic shapes in. So I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view some more. I'm going to hold control in the middle mouse button to zoom back some more. We're going to press E to extrude on the Z axis like this. We're going to left click to lock that in. We're then going to press S to scale on the X axis like this. It looks fine from here, but you should hopefully know by now that on the side, it's going to be too thick. I'm going to raise this up slightly like that. I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to turn to the side. We don't want that, so we're going to press S to scale on the Y axis like this. We're going to then left click to lock that in. Okay, we're going to hold them in the mouse button and rotate back to the front. You see how when we're forming the legs, we kind of go front side, front side, front side. That's how I think you should do it. Anyway, we're going to press E to extrude on the Z axis. We're basically forming our ankle area now. We're going to left click to lock this in. We're now going to hold control in the middle mouse button to zoom in. I'm going to let go of control, hold shift in the middle mouse button to pan up. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to turn to the side. I'm then going to press A to deselect. We're now going to start to form our feet. We're going to make sure we're on edge select. We're going to click, not there, we're going to click here. I'm going to hold control in the middle mouse button to zoom in closer. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm now going to click here. See our manipulator, how it's in the way? Like if I try to click here, I probably won't be able to click. If this happens, you can click right here. Temporarily takes away the manipulator. You hold shift. I'm holding shift so that when I click here, I don't lose that selection there. So I'm holding shift. I left click here. So now I have both of those loop cuts, not loop cuts, both of those edges selected. I'm then going to click here. Now I have the manipulator back again. Okay, with that selected, I'm going to hold control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to press E to extrude on the Y axis and bring this out like this. I'm then going to take the manipulator and push this down. I'm going to turn to the side. That's kind of long looking, so I'm going to pull this back some, even more like that. Lift it up some. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to turn towards the front. I'm now going to press E to extrude on the Z axis like this. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate to the side like this. Okay, with these edges selected, you're going to press E to extrude on the Y axis, bring this back. And when I bring it back, I'm kind of looking right here and saying, yeah, that looks pretty much like it's there. I want this to be straightened out right here, so I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis 0, and then left click to lock that in. I'm now going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Hold the middle mouse button again. We have these two edges selected. We want to form geometry between here and right here. So to do that, what we're going to do is hold shift. So we have these two edges here. I'm holding shift and clicking here. I'm still holding shift and I'm clicking. Manipulator blocked me. Okay, now I have it. So I let go of shift. I have two edges here selected as well as two edges here selected. What I'm going to do now is hold control. Then while holding control, press E. This brings up our edges menu. And then I am going to look for bridge edge loops. So now I left click and then Blender, fills in that geometry there, which is very nice for us. I'm then going to press A to deselect. I'm now going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold control in the middle mouse button to zoom in. I'm going to hold shift in the middle mouse button to pan up. I'm letting go of shift. I'm holding control in the middle mouse button to zoom in some more. I am going to hover here, hold control, and then while holding control, press R to put a loop cut in. I'm going to left click one time because I only left click one time. I can move this loop cut. So I'm going to move it here. I'm going to left click a second time to lock it in. The reason why I put it here was I'm looking at right there and I'm like, okay, this looks like it's around the distance of right here. So now I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, now see this edge right here? We need another edge or loop cut right here. So we're going to hover here, hold control. While holding control, press R. I'm going to left click one time because I left clicked one time. I can move this loop cut. I'm going to pull this back to about here. I'm going to left click here to lock that totally in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. I move this here because I'm looking here and I'm like, yep, that looks about the distance to me, right there. Okay, what we want to do now is make sure we're on edge select, which we are. We're going to hold Alt. While holding Alt, we're going to click here. Because we were holding Alt, we selected this entire edge loop here. We're now going to hold Control. While holding Control, we're going to press F. This brings up our Faces menu. We're then going to go to Grid Fill. We're going to left click Grid Fill. And then Blender nicely fills in all that geometry for us. We're then going to press A to deselect. We're now going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. We're going to hold Alt. And then while holding Alt, click right here again. We're then going to hold Control. And then while holding Control, press F. This brings up our Faces menu. We're then going to choose Grid Fill again. We're then going to press A to deselect. With Edge Select still on, we're going to click here. We're going to push this to the side some. We're going to click here. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. We're going to pull to the side some like that. Some more like that. We're now going to go to Face Select. I'm then going to click here, hold Shift, and then while holding Shift, click here. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. We're then going to press E to extrude on the Y axis like this. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. I'm going to click here to go to Edge Select. I'm going to click here, hold Shift, then click here, and then push that down some like there. I'm going to click here, hold Shift, then click here. Push this down some here like that, then press A to deselect. Okay, we're going to hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan down like that. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan down some. Okay, we're going to go to Face Select. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom in. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan the view. I'm going to click here, hold Shift, and then while holding Shift, click here. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We're going to press E to extrude on the X axis like this. You want to bring it out about like that. I'm going to left click to lock that extrusion in. Okay, what we're about to do is these are basically going to be the shoulders. We're going to change this face so it looks like out of this part, arms are coming out from the side. So let's do that. So we're going to press R to rotate on the Y axis. So we're going to pull this up like this. Then we're going to press R to rotate on the Y axis some more like that. Push over some like that. Then I'll press S to scale some like that. We'll then press A to deselect. Okay, so what we're going to do now is hold the mouse button to rotate the view. We're going to hover our mouse here. We're going to hold Control, and then while holding Control, press R to put a loop cut in. We're then going to left click once, then left click a second time to put that loop cut in there. We're then going to go to Vertices Select. We're going to click here, push this out to the side some just to give some shape to the shoulder like that. We're then going to press A to deselect. We're going to click here to go to Face Select. We're going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. We're going to press C for Paint Select, then click here. I'm then going to right click to get out of Paint Select. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate back towards the front more. We're now going to press E to extrude on the X axis like this, come out just like that. I'm then going to left click. We want this to be straight, so we're going to press S to scale on the X axis 0, and then left click to lock that in. Okay, now what we want to do is hold the mouse button to rotate the view. Let's press S to scale like that. This looks very thick right here. So what we're going to do is press A to deselect. We're going to hover here, hold Control, and then while holding Control, press R. We're then going to left click once. Because we only left click once, we can move this loop cut. We're going to move this fairly close to the shoulder like that. We're then going to left click a second time. And now with that loop cut right there, we're going to press S to scale like that. Then we're going to left click to lock that in. We're then going to press A to deselect. Okay, we're going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We're going to click here to go to face select. We're going to hover here, press C for paint select, then left click to select all of the faces right there. We're then going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to push this in some like this. I'm going to press S to scale this down some more. Then I'm going to press E to extrude on the X axis. We're basically forming an elbow right there. I'm then going to left click. I'm just taking a look at it. We're then going to press, I just held the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We're then going to press E to extrude on the X axis like this to about here. We're then going to left click, then press S to scale this up some like this. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to take the look. Let's see if we can make this. Again, you can manually shape this, or let's try S to scale. Brings up, sorry, not S to scale. We're going to press W to bring up our specials menu. We're then going to go to loop tools, and then we're going to select circle. So that made this, a little bit cleaner looking. You don't have to use the loop tools to do that. You can do that manually. Kind of like this dot is kind of off, so I'm going to manually go in here. The same way I'm pushing that, what I call a dot, it's a vertex towards the center. You can do that with all of these vertices right here. The loop tools just makes this very quick as far as forming circular shapes. So I'm going to click here to go to face select. Okay, with face select on, I'm going to press C for paint select. I'm going to grab these 4 faces right there. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm then going to press E to extrude on the X axis like this. Pull that out to about there. I'm then going to left click. I'm going to press S to scale. And this is basically bringing us down to where we're going to, form a wrist. I'm going to push this in some like that. Now I'm going to press E to extrude on the X axis to form basically our wrist right here. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. Okay, now we're going to press E to extrude on the X axis again, bring this out to about here. Then we're going to press S to scale to bring this up. Like that. We're then going to press E to extrude on the X axis again, like this. I'm then going to left click to lock that extrusion in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. Basically, here's our wrist. This is going to be the main part of our hand. This is going to be part of our hand. Our fingers are going to also come from this. So what we're going to do is hold control and the middle mouse button to zoom in. Okay, I'm holding the middle mouse button because I'm going to see this side right here. We're on face select. I'm going to click here, hold shift, then click here. I want this to be flat. So I'm going to press S to scale on the X axis 0. Oops, I'm wrong. I'm going to right click to get out of that. Sorry. It's S to scale on the Y axis 0. And then left click to lock that in. Push this down some. I'm going to press, I held the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to press A to deselect. Then I'm going to click here, hold shift, and then click here. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis 0. And then left click to lock that in. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to pull this to the side, push this down. I think we'll do that to the front too. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to click here, hold shift, and then click here. I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis 0 to flatten that out. And then I'm going to left click to lock that in. I'm actually going to leave the bend there in the bottom. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Then I'm going to click here, hold shift, and then click here. Okay, what we're going to do now is press E to extrude on the Y axis, like that. I'm then going to left click to lock that extrusion in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view with face select on. I'm going to click here, hold shift, and then click here. I'm then going to press E to extrude on the Y axis here, like this. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, typically when you work with hands, it can take a decent amount of time. What I'm about to show you here, gets fairly decent results, and it is extremely quick. So basically what we're going to do is we are going to extrude this as one finger, this as a finger, this as a finger, as well as this as a finger. The way we're going to do that is we're going to hold shift and then select all of these faces here. When we click here, our default pivot point is the medium point, which is what we're currently on. We want to change this to individual origins. Then after having this pivot point change for individual origins, what we want to do is a special type of extrude. We want to hold Alt, and then while holding Alt, press E. This brings up our extrude menu. We then want to select individual faces. So now I'm going to right click. So basically what we did was each one of these faces are all separated now. So because of that, and because this is on the pivot point, we can press S to scale and see that they all scale down. Instead of this all scaling as one, we also can now take the manipulate and pull out like that. Now what we can do is press E to extrude on the X axis like this. I'm holding shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate. So that quick, we have the basics for our fingers. And then what we can do is like click here, push this in some like that, push here, push this in some like that, then click here and push this in some like that, right? We'll then press A to deselect. When I did those links, I basically looked down at my hand and was like, okay, this is my pointer finger, you know, all the fingers. I looked at the link for that. So with our basic finger shape here, now what we can do is hover here, hold control, and then while holding control, press R. That puts a loop cut in. We roll our mouse wheel one time. And then we'll left click to lock those loop cuts in. We'll left click a second time to totally lock those loop cuts in. We'll press A to deselect. We'll hover here, hold control, then while holding control, press R. Roll the mouse wheel one time, then left click once, then again, press A to deselect, hover here, hold control. While holding control, press R, roll the mouse wheel once, then left click once, then twice, press A to deselect, hover here, hold control. While holding control, press R, roll the mouse wheel once, then left click once, then left click a second time. We'll then press A to deselect. Okay, now what we want to do is make sure we're on edge select, which we are. We're going to hold Alt and we're going to click here. We're going to hold shift, so I'm currently holding shift as well as Alt, and I'm clicking here, 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 as well as here. Okay, with all of these edge loops selected, I'm going to hold control, and then while holding control, I'm going to press the B key. And what this did is this activated Blender's ability to bevel different pieces of geometry in Blender. So we're going to pull and see as we pull, we can see there's actually two lines basically forming from the lines that we had. Make these a little bit thicker. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Now what I just showed you there works well for organic hands. However, I made these parts thicker here because we're dealing with droid or robot hands. So with that done, I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to mouse button to pan. So here's our basic fingers. Think of this kind of being like the knuckles here. Now what we're going to do is hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We're going to click here, hold shift, then click here. While holding shift, click here, here. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm then going to hold shift again. I let go of shift to rotate the view. Now I'm holding shift again. Okay, I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I let go of shift to do that. I'm holding shift again now. Now I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate the view to look. So we have this entire, it looks like a loop cut. It kind of isn't, you know, that's why if it was a true loop cut, we could have held Alt and selected that at once. Anyway, we have all of this around. So what we want to do now is take this manipulator and pull back like this. This kind of gives us like the more meatier part of the hand right here. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan, hold control and the middle mouse button to zoom back. What we're going to do is we're going to go to edge select, which we're on. So we're gonna hold shift and we're gonna push this out some like that. I'm gonna press A to deselect. I'm then gonna click here to go to face select. I'm gonna click right here, and then I'm gonna press E to extrude on the Y axis like this. And then I'm gonna press S to scale like that. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis 0 to flatten that out. I'm going to press S to scale down some more like that. I'm going to press E to extrude on the Y axis like this. Then I'm going to press E to extrude on the Y axis like that to give us our basic thumb. I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate. Now I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go to edge select. I'm going to click this edge and just push this down some like that. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back some. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to zoom back some. Let's adjust the proportion slightly. This looks very long here, so we can press Z, then go to wireframe like this. Okay, what we're going to do now is click here to go to face select. I'm going to hold control as well as the middle mouse button. Select here. Whoops. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to try that again. Good. So with this area of geometry here selected, we're just going to push up some like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, hold control, and then while holding control, hold the right mouse button to draw a lasso select right here. I'm then going to push this in like that. I'm then going to press A to deselect. I'm then going to hover my mouse here, hold control. While holding control, hold the right mouse button. Draw a lasso select right here, then push this in like that. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, now we want to focus a little bit more right here. So I'm going to hover my mouse here. I'm going to hold shift, and then while holding shift, I'm going to press B to draw a zoom box. As soon as I let go, we're going to zoom right into what's in that box like that. The hand looks a little bit big, so we're going to hold control, hold the right mouse button, and then draw a lasso select like this. We're then going to press S to scale this down, something like that. We're going to left click and then take the manipulator and push this in like that, and then press A to deselect. Okay, with that done, I'm going to hold control on the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to hold shift on the middle mouse button to pan. We're then going to press Z and then select here to go to solid view. Okay, what we want to do now is we have the basic shape. Let's give this more of like kind of like a rib cage. So what we're going to do is hover right here. We're going to hold control, and then while holding control, we're going to press R to put a loop cut in. We're then going to left click to lock this in, then left click a second time. Now with this in, what we want to do is rotate this. So we're going to press R to rotate on the X axis like this. And what that does when we rotate this is this kind of like puts this line where it should be, kind of pulls the vertices down right here. And then what we can do is we can actually push this down some here, like that. Then left click here, which deselects there automatically, and then pull this up some. That last step isn't totally necessary, but I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to click here to go to vertices select. I'm going to click here. Long story short, what we're doing right here is we're just forming shapes. So don't think this has to be exact on your model. This right here, we want to push this down a little bit. We're going to click here, go to edge select. We're going to click here, push that down some like that. Now what we want to do is press A to deselect. Okay, so I'm holding the middle mouse button just to take a look. I'm going to click here and push this out some. I want this to be a little bit more shape right here, so I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, hold control. While holding control, I'm going to press R to put a loop cut here. I'm going to pull down, only left click once so I can pull this down like this. I'm going to left click a second time to totally lock that in. Then I'm going to push this out like that. I'm just taking a look. I'm going to click here, hold shift and click here, push this down some more like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is hover here, hold control. While holding control, press R. I'm I'm going to left click one time and then left click a second time to totally lock that in. I'm then going to click here. When I clicked here, Blender deselected the rest of the loop cuts. And then we're just going to push down just like that there. So now I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. There we go. To rotate the view to take a look. I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, we're going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan down. This grid's kind of distracting my attention, so I'm going to press N to bring up our properties panel. I'm going to go to display. I click the arrow to show what's in display. I'm then going to click this grid floor to take away the grid floor. I'm then going to press N to take away that properties panel. I'm now going to make sure I'm on edge select. I'm going to click here and then pull up like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to zoom in by rolling the mouse wheel in. I'm going to hold shift and the mouse button pan. I'm going to make sure I'm on edge select, hold alt, and then while holding alt, click here. I'm then going to pull this up some like this. I want this to be totally straight. See how it's got kind of like little bumps there? So I'm going to press S to scale and the Z axis 0. And then left click to lock that in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Okay, now we're going to make sure we're on edge select, which we are. We're going to click here. And now I'm going to hold control and then click here. Now, the reason why I held control instead of holding alt, if I held alt, I would have selected this entire edge loop, including this, which I didn't want. I only want it from here to here. So when I held control, Blender used what's called the shortest path technique, I guess you would say. So instead of selecting this entire edge loop, it just selected from where I first clicked to where I second clicked. The reason why I did that was I wanted to push down here, which would basically give me more shape to this area right here. So I'm going to press A to deselect, which is basically like the eye area. So now I'm going to go to vertice select. I'm going to click here, push this down, something like that. Click this vertice, push this down some like that. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, we did all that. Now we're ready to start working on our droid shape. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to start deleting stuff. Strange as that sounds. So we're right here. So we're going to go to face select. We're going to hold alt and then click here. We're then going to press X to bring up our delete menu. We're then going to choose faces to delete. Okay, we're going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan our view. Just thinking here. We're going to click here, hold shift, and let's press C for paint select. Let's paint all of this area right here. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to press C for paint select. Paint this, don't worry about that. We can deal with that fairly quickly. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to press C to go back into paint select. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. When you have paint select and you press the middle mouse button, you deselect instead of paint select. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm then going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. Okay, I'm going to click, oh, I missed it. I'm going to click right here. Just hold the middle mouse button, rotate the view. I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate the view. I'm going to hold shift as well as alt, still holding shift and alt, then click here. I'm then going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold alt, then select here, then press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan the view. I'm going to hold alt, then click here to select that whole row of faces. I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan the view. I'm going to hold control and the middle mouse button to zoom in. I'm going to hold shift as well as alt, then I'm going to click here here, 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 as well as here. And then I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu. I'm then going to choose faces to delete those faces. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hover here, hold control, and then while holding control, press R to put a loop cut in. I'm going to, well, there's a loop cut preview. I want to move that to here. I'm going to left click once, then left click a second time to lock that in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. I'm then going to go to phase select. And then while holding Alt, I'm going to click right here. And then I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. I'm then going to hold Alt, then click here. Then press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. Okay, I'm going to hold control and the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan the view. I'm going to hold Alt, then click here. I'm going to hold shift and Alt, then click here. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Just taking a look. I'm then going to press X to bring up our delete menu. I'm then going to choose faces to delete. Okay, we still have face select on. I'm going to hold Alt, then click here. I'm then going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to hold Alt, then while holding Alt, click here. I'm then going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. Okay, I'm going to hold control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to hold Alt, then click here. I'm then going to press X to bring up our delete menu. I'm then going to choose faces to delete. Okay, so basically what we have here is a fairly nice starting point. We have our basic humanoid shape. We also have the spaces set up so we can put things that look like robotic joints and so forth in here. We can pretty much go where we want from where we're at right now as far as making this robot droid. I'm going to hold control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom out some. Okay, one of the things nice about working with non-organic characters is we can take different elements and use those elements again and again. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to right click here to put the 3D cursor there. I did that because in Blender, where the 3D cursor is at is where objects tend to come into Blender at. So what I'm going to do is hold shift and then press A. This brings up our add to menu. I'm then going to select cube to bring a cube in. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, with this cube selected, I'm going to hold shift, and then while holding shift, I'm going to press D. I'm going to right click. Doesn't look like we did anything, but we just duplicated that cube. So we'll just push the duplicate out, and then put this up near to where we want this to be. I actually want the arm to be more straight, so I want the shoulder to be pretty blocky. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button. And one of the things we're doing, since we're about to work, do some different changes to what we have here, is let's click here. This is our medium point. Let's change this, or this is our pivot point. Let's change our pivot point from individual origins. Let me click here again. Change it from individual origins to the medium point, which is Blender's default pivot point. Now let's click here, go to object mode. We'll zoom back so you can see this is what you have here. Now we're going to hold shift, and then while holding shift, press D. Pull this to the side just so we know that we duplicated, our object. I'm going to right click to get the duplicate to jump right back into place. That's why you can't see it, but it's still there. We're going to press M. This brings up our move to layer option. And what we're going to do is go to this layer right here and then left click right there. And then basically what happened is we're currently on this layer. However, in this layer right here is a duplicate of this. The reason why we did that was if we want to come back to what we have here as we manipulate this, we can always go to layer 2 and basically have this, as it is right now. So with this selected, I just selected it by left clicking it now. We're in object mode. We're going to click here to go back to edit mode. So now we can edit and make changes. And again, feel secure that if we don't like these changes, we have a duplicate of what we see here on another layer. Okay, so I'm going to roll my mouse wheel to zoom in. I'm going to click here. I'm going to press E to extrude on the x-axis and pull this out. And basically what I'm thinking of is a shoulder shape. Okay, what I'm going to do now is press E to extrude on x-axis and then pull out some like that. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. I'm then going to press E to extrude on the x-axis and pull out some more like this. Then going to left click to lock that extrusion in. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press E to extrude on the x-axis, pull this out some like that, then press S to scale. Then I'm going to press E to extrude on the x-axis like this. Then left click to lock that in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate, then click here, then press E to extrude on x-axis, then pull out some like that. I'm then going to go like that, then press A to deselect. Okay, if you're thinking, well, if you're making this to seemingly replace that, then why did you make this in the first place? Well, a lot of times when you're working on a project, one of the most difficult things to do is where do you start at, right? So we do this, we get our basic humanoid shape. This gives us a nice starting point, if that thought popped up in your mind. Anyway, with this set up, we want this part to basically represent the shoulder and this part right here. So I'm going to hover here. When I hover here and I'm on face select, I can press L. That will select this entire piece of this mesh here. I'll then press X, then choose faces to delete that piece of mesh right there. Okay, now we'll hover here. We'll press L to select this entire thing, and we'll move this up into place. I'm going to press S to scale this down. I want this to be much thicker. S to scale that down some more. I'm going to press A to deselect. I want this to be much thicker, so what we can do is make sure we're on face select, hold Alt. Then while holding Alt, click here. Hold Alt again, then press S. I'm going to hold Shift. When you hold Shift, it gives you fine movement. So I'm holding Shift as I'm scaling up. So that this is basically being made much more thicker. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, then press L. I'm going to move this way. I'm going to still use this, as a kind of like a guide. To where I want the form to eventually be. I'm going to press A to deselect there. I'm going to press Z to go to wireframe. I'm going to hover here, press B for box select. This just allows me to grab, select by boxes, very similar to like C for paint select. So anyway, with this selected, we're going to grab this and pull this way. Like that. I'm going to press S to scale this down. Some like that. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to press B for box select. Grab this area, press S to scale this down some. I'm going to press A to deselect, hover here, then press L to select the entire thing. Then press S to make the whole thing bigger. Like that. Press A to deselect. I think I want this to be bigger, so I'm going to hover here. Press B for box select. Grab all this geometry right here. Then press S to scale this up some, like that. Roll the mouse wheel to zoom back, so I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to press B for box select. Grab all of this geometry right here. Pull this out some, like that. Press A to deselect. I'm going to press B for box select. Grab this right here. I'm still on face select. Pull this out to the side like this. I'm going to press S to scale this up some like that. Now I'm going to press A to deselect, press Z, and then go back to solid view. Okay, now with face select on, we're going to hover here, press L, then press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. We're going to hover here, press L to select that, hold shift, then press D. We duplicated that cube. We're going to right click, push the duplicate out, push this into place here, press S to scale on the X axis like this. I'm going to press S to scale, take the manipulator, I'm going to rotate the view so I can see how this is, forming. We're on face select still, which is good. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to click here, pull this some this way, hover here, press L, then push this back some like that. I'm going to come back to here, press A to deselect, press L, press S to make this bigger, like this. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, go to edge select, hold Alt, then select here. Oops, it didn't select. Let me I held the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold Alt. Okay, won't let me select. So I'm going to have to manually select the 4 faces. So I'm just selecting this. It looks like I'm selecting that. I'm not. Just pushing this back some like that. I'm going to press A to deselect, hover here, press L. I'm going to press S to scale on the X axis like this. Push that back some like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, hold control, then while holding control, press R. Left click one time because I left clicked one time. I have a loop cut that I can move. I'm going to put that here. I'm going to left click to lock that in. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to click here to go to face select. I'm going to click here. Hold the mouse button, rotate the view. I'm going to press E to extrude. Right click. Doesn't look like I did anything, but I made new geometry on top of the old geometry. I'm going to press S to scale in some. And then with that done, I'm going to press E to extrude on the Y axis and just pull out just slightly, then left click to lock that in. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to hover here, press L, hold shift, and then while holding shift, press D. I just duplicated the cube. I'm going to take the manipulator and push the duplicate out. I'm going to take this like this, push this here, then press S to scale on the Y axis like this. Hold the middle mouse button, rotate the view. Putting this just to the front. I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis like this. Now I'm going to hold control, and then while holding control, press R, put a loop cut in, left click once, left click a second time. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here still, hold control, then press R, put a loop cut in, and then left click once, then left click a second time. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse wheel to rotate. I'm going to go to face select. I'm actually going to press C for paint select. Select these 4 faces here, right click to get out of paint select, then hold shift D, or press shift D to duplicate, right click to get the duplicate to stay in place, push this forward so we just have that flat plane. I'm then going to hover here, press L, then going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. You'll see why I did that hopefully later. For this point, having flat planes is actually not a bad thing in some areas. I'm going to hover here, press L, hold shift, then press D. Pull this back. Press R to rotate on the Z axis is what I want. Push this back here. Press S to scale. Put that about there. I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, and basically what's going on now, I have a general idea of what I'm thinking of in my mind. So I'm kind of like working that out. We can take advantage of duplicating things. So I have this little extra detail here. So I'm like, hey, let's take advantage of it. I'm going to hover here, then press L. I'm going to hold shift, then press D. Right click to get the duplicate to stay in place, then move the duplicate. Over here, I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis like this. I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis. Put this like here. Press R to rotate on the X axis like that. Then I think I'll press R to rotate on the Y axis like this. And I'll press A to deselect. I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold control them in the mouse button to zoom in. I'm going to click here, hold shift, then click here, here. Hold them in the mouse button so I can see kind of right here. I'm going to hold shift again. And then I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu. Then choose faces to delete. I'm going to click here, press X, then choose faces to delete. I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view back like that. Hold them in the mouse button just to make sure I don't have anything selected. Okay, I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate the view. Taking a look. Roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to hold shift, and then while holding shift, press A. This brings up our add to menu. I'm then going to select cylinder. If you look immediately over to where it says vertices, I want you to click where it says 32 and then change this to 8 and then press enter to lock that in. For this right here, for now, change this to nothing. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, so we're going to hover here. We're on face select. We're going to press L. I'm going to hold shift and press D, then right click to get that to stay in place. I'm going to take this, move this over here, move this up. I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis 90 and then left click to lock that in. Okay, with this selected, I'm going to hold shift and press D, then right click. We made a duplicate. It's just right on top of the old geometry. So we're going to take this. Oops. You don't want to cross over. Let's press S to scale. When I say crossover, I mean that center line. I'm going to hold control in the middle mouse button to zoom in. We're going to move this up like this. Out here, let's press S to scale on the Y axis like this. Want them to be, back in the head slightly. We'll push up. Press S to scale like this. Okay. I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, if we look here to where it says clipping, this clipping keeps our virtual geometry from pulling apart from our actual geometry. We're going to unclick clipping. We're then going to click here, hold shift and click here, as well as here, as well as here. Then we're going to actually pull this apart like that. We're then going to press A to deselect. We'll then click to turn this clipping back on. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We're on face select, which is good. We're going to select here. Hold shift and click here as well as here. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate. We're going to push this out some like that. We'll pull this out some more like that. I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis, something like this. I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis, something like this. And it's giving this hopefully more of a push down, something like that. Less of an organic look. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, hold Control. Then while holding Control, press R to put a loop cut in. I'm going to left click a second time so those loop cuts are totally locked in. I'm going to then left click here, hold Shift, then click here, then click here. Pull this to the side, something like that. Then press A to deselect. Okay, we're on edge select. We're going to click this edge right here. Hold down the mouse button to rotate the view. We're going to pull this, push this forward, pull this out to the side like that. I'm going to roll the mouse button, zoom back, press A to deselect. We're going to hover here, press L, hold Shift, then press D. Right click to get that duplicate to stay in place. That's what Shift D did. We made a duplicate, or duplicate. Okay. We're going to push this over here. Whoops. See, when we have this, I want to put this in the center, right? So we have a dilemma. We have two pieces. They'll try to go together. It's actually not so much of a dilemma because what we can do is click here to go to front view. Press A to deselect. Press Z, go to wireframe. Hover, let's go to face select. We'll hover here. Press B for box select. Cut this in half. Press X to bring up our delete menu. Then choose faces to delete. Hover here. Then press L to select that. We'll then click here, go back to solid view. Now we can have these two pieces form the one piece we initially wanted. So now we'll just move this up. I'll push this forward some like this. Okay, with this here, we're going to hold Shift and press D to duplicate this. We're going to right click to get the duplicate to stay in place. We're going to push this down. We're going to press R to rotate on the X-axis 90, and then left click to get that to stay in, or lock in place, I should say. Push this down, push this back. Like this. Then press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold down the mouse button. I'm going to click here to go to edge select. I'm going to hold Alt, then click here to select that back edge. I'm just going to pull this back. Actually through this mesh right here. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to click here to go to face select. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom in. I'm going to hold Alt, then click here to select all of these faces here. I'm then going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. Okay, I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to press A to select everything and A to deselect everything. The reason why I did that was I wanted to make sure that nothing was selected, and by selecting everything and deselecting everything, I now know that nothing is selected. So now I'm going to hover here, press L. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis like this. I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis like this. For here, I'm going to press A to deselect here, being these two faces here. I'm on face select. I'm going to click here, which gives me both faces. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis 0 to flatten that out. I'm going to press S to scale, which basically took that way, which is fine. I want to pull to the side like that. Now I want to push this back like this. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, when you look at our Droid robot so far, I'm going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom back. You can see we have all these, flat objects. Flat here, it doesn't look particularly good. There's a reason why we did that. As far as like here, this is flat as well. The reason why we did that is because I actually find there's an advantage when you're doing with armor or inorganic shapes to have things be flat, and then click here, go to solidify to put a solidify modifier on, and then choose thickness. So we left these things flat because I knew we were going to put the thickness on, and I didn't want there to be issues as far as us, for the most part, making the things look thicker on our own and then have the solidify modifier, interfere with that. So, or interact with that in ways that we didn't expect. So we look here, this still looks thin, this still looks thin. Let's take this thickness up. Now, because we left these things flat for the most part, like this doesn't look quite, right. But for the most part, our thickness now will add, to our robotic shape. So I'm going to make this even thicker. Okay, so now with all of this, thickness that we have here, what we're going to do is click here, go to object mode. We're then going to apply this solidify modifier just by clicking apply. Now we'll click here and then go back to edit mode. Okay, so now that we have that, we'll take shapes like this. We'll hover here, press L, hold shift, then press D. Right click to get the duplicate to stay in place, push this to the side slightly. We'll press S to scale on the Z axis, slightly like that. Hold shift, then press D. Right click, we press shift D, that duplicated this object. We right click so the object would stay in place. Now we'll just push this down like this. Then we'll press A to deselect. I held the middle mouse button to rotate. We'll hover here, press L, hover here, press L, hold shift, then press D, right click, and then we'll start putting different joints in place. So we'll move this up here like this. We'll press R to rotate on the x-axis 90. Left click to lock that in. Then press S to scale. Take our manipulator, move this into place. We'll hold shift, then press D. Right click to get the duplicate to stay in place. We'll push this back, push this into place right there. We'll hold shift, then press D. Right click. Take this, push this back, push that into place there. Push this forward some like that. We'll hold shift, press D, right click to get the duplicate to stay in place, then take our manipulator, push this down here, like this. We'll leave this here for now like that. We'll hold shift, then press D, right click, push down, hold the middle mouse button. We'll press R to rotate on the Z axis 90, left click to push this into place. We'll press S to scale this up some. I'm going to hold shift and middle mouse button to pan. We'll hold shift and press D. Right click, get that to stay into place. Push this down. Push this into place here. We'll press S to scale on the X axis like this here. We'll press A to deselect. We're going to hover here, hold control. While holding control, press R to put a loop cut in. We'll left click here, press A to deselect, go to phase select, hold Alt, select here. While holding Alt to grab that entire loop of faces, press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. We have this internal part right here from our solidify modifier, so we'll just click here. Let me see what happens if we press L here. Nope, that doesn't work. So we have a loop cut here. We'll hover here, hold control, press R, left click, push this down some, left click again. We'll then hold Alt. While holding Alt, click, oops, we need to be on face select, sorry, hold Alt, click here, press X to bring up our delete menu. Then we'll hover here, press L, hover here, press L, hold shift, then press D, right click, and move this into place. this. By the way, when you do your solidify modifier, there's an option of choosing rim only for dealing with mechanical things or armor. I prefer to have the solidify do, the solidify all the way on all of our pieces instead of just the rim, but just be aware that that option's available. Rim only means like solidify would just put thickness right here, but right here there wouldn't be thickness. So the issue that we had where we had to put another loop cut right here, we wouldn't have to have done that if we did only rim on our solidifier option. So I'm going to press A to deselect. There. I'm going to hold control on the middle mouse button to zoom back. Taking a look at what we have here. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to hover here, press L. Hover here, press L. L. We're going to push this down like this. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, press L. Hover here, then press L again. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Z-axis 90, and then left click to lock that in. Push this down some more like that. I'm going to press A to deselect, hover here, press L. Push this down and then forward like this. I'm going to press A to deselect, hover here. Press L, we're on face select, which is important for pushing that L. We'll push this down here. I'll press S to scale like this. I'm going to hold control on the middle mouse button to zoom in. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to go to edge select. Select this edge here. Press E to extrude. Left click to lock the extrusion in. Then I'm going to press S to scale that extrusion. Push in like this. I'm then going to press E to extrude. Right click. I right click to get the extrusion to stay in place. Doesn't look like we did anything, but we made new geometry. Because we made the new geometry, we can pull back this geometry like this. I'm now going to press E to extrude, right click to get that to stay in place. I think I can, let's see, do I want to scale? Yeah, we'll scale it down and push that together like that. Okay, I'm going to hold control on the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to I'll grab this. I'll hover here, press L. I'll hold shift and press D to duplicate. Right click to get the duplicate to stay in place. Push this over here. I'll press S to scale on the Z axis like this. I'll press S to scale on the X axis like this. Hold the middle mouse button and turn to the side. Press S to scale on the Y axis like this. It's easier to get shapes like this when they're straight up and down to form them kind of like this. First, I'll press S to scale like that. Then I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis like this. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, press L, hold shift and press D. Right click to get that duplicate to stay in place. I'm going to delete this face right here because these two pieces are going to join together. So I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'll click here. Clicking here because this is just extra geometry and it can cause issues. I'm going to press X. So now this is hollow, and the reason why I did that is so when we want to form something in the center, like I do here, see that? So now these two cubes basically form one cube. Push this out something like this. I'll press S to scale on the Y axis like that. Okay, so we're going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, hold control, then while holding control, press R. Put a loop cut right there. Because I left click one time, I can move it. I'm moving it up some. I'm going to left click to lock that in. Then I'm going to go to face select, click here, then press S to scale down that front some like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, press L. Press L here, hold shift, then press D. Right click to get that to stay in place. Put this over here, press R to rotate on the Y axis, 90, then left click to lock that in. Push this up, push this over here, and press S to scale this down. Put that like there. Push it over some more like that. Maybe push it back some. I'll then press A to deselect. I'll hover here, press L, press R to rotate on the X axis. Like that. I'll then press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hover here, press L, hold shift, then press D. Right click to get that duplicate to stay in place. Push this over like this. Press A to deselect. Make sure we're on face select. Click here, press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. Press L to select this whole thing. Then we're connecting this up like that. The more you push it towards each other, the more it becomes less of a rectangle, more of a square. I'm going to press S to scale. Like this. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, press L, hover here, then press L. See how you do a lot of duplication? And it, for the most part, it works. When you're working with non-organic things, you hold Shift and press D. Right click. We have this duplicated, so we'll pull this up. We'll then press A to deselect. Okay, we'll hover here. We'll hold Control. While holding Control, press R. We'll roll the mouse wheel one time. So we have 2 loop cuts. We'll left click once, then left click a second time to totally lock those loop cuts in. We'll press A to deselect. We'll click here to go to face select. We'll hold Alt and then click here. We'll press E to extrude. Right click. So we extruded the geometry here. It doesn't look like we did anything, but we have new geometry here. Because we have that new geometry here, we can press S to scale this down. And we're doing this just to get some variation right here. So now we'll press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hover here, press L, press S to scale on the Y axis like this. Push this forward some like that. I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold Shift to the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to I'll hover here, press L, hold Shift, then press D. Right click to get the duplicate to stay in place. Move this out to the side. I'll click here to go to front view. I'll press A to deselect, Z to go to wireframe. I'll make sure I'm on box select. I'm going to press B for box select. Select half of this right here. Press X. Then bring up, export up our delete menu. We then choose faces to delete. We then press Z, go back to solid view. Hover here, press L. Now that we have that half, we can take these 2 pieces and push them together here. Let's move them up so we can see what's going on. Now they're united in the center there. We'll pull this back some like this. I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis, something like that. I'll press S to scale on the Z axis. S to scale on the Z axis even more. Like this. S to scale on the Z axis some more. I'm just thinking. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'll hover here. Press L, hold Shift, then press D. Right click to get the duplicate to stay in place. Move this up. Push this over. Press R to rotate on the Y axis 90, and then left click to lock that in. Push this over like this. Push this up like that. I'm going to push this up some higher like that. push this forward, something like that. Push these together more like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, press L. Hover here, press L, hold shift, then press D. Right click to get those duplicates to stay in their place. Move these up like this. Hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. Hold control and the middle mouse button to zoom in. Move these back to here. Like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here. Hold L to select this. Okay, what we're going to do is hold shift, press D to duplicate this. Move this up into place. Press S to scale. Move this up like this. I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis like that. I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis like this. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view some more. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, press L, hold shift, then press D, then right click to get the duplicate to stay in place. I'm going to take the manipulator to push these up. Be careful you don't cross over the center line here. Press S to scale. I'm going to push this back some like this. Push this up higher. And down some like that. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to go to edge select. I'm going to hold Alt. Select this edge right here. Oh, I see there's an issue here. So I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to press L. I'm going to pull just slightly like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. We're on edge select, which is good. I'm going to hold Alt, then click here. I'm going to press E to extrude. Right click to keep that extrusion in place. Press S to scale. Push this down like this. I'm then going to press E to extrude. Right click. Then press S to scale this extrusion in. I'm going to then pull this extrusion back like this. I'm going to click. I'm going to go to phase select. Click right here. Pull this back. Let's grab here. Pull this back. Grab here. Pull that back. There we go. So now let's press A to deselect. Here to go to edge select. Click here. Push straight down. Now let's click the edge right here. Push this back like this. I'm actually going to hold Alt then click. See if I can click here. Press S to scale this. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis. I'm trying to make a hole here. Long story short is what I'm trying to do. But see this right here? That looks kind of strange. So I'm trying to not have things get too crazy there, if that makes sense. I'm just taking the vertices and pushing and pulling them so they're not too, like, for lack of a better word, like just out of control. So I'm going to click here, hold shift, click here, hold back. So I figured since this is here, why not take advantage of this, right? Then we can press E to extrude on the Z axis. These little details, like, you're like, oh, yeah, what's going on? It's like they're small details. Don't think you have to follow this exactly. If you see something you get confused, don't let it get to you too much. I'm kind of like going along with this, making it up as we go along. I have a general idea in my head, so I would kind of suggest you follow along. And if you have some kind of issue, if it's nothing major, if it's like small details, just make your modification and just roll with it as best as you can. Okay, so I'm just rolling back to take a look at what we have here. Okay, let's zoom in. Force the hands. See, remember I was telling you about the flat pieces, so this is where things get a little bit out of control with the, let me click here, with the solidify. So I'll press X. Trying to delete these faces here. And this is like just kind of out of control here. You know, when you deal with a situation like this, what we can actually do is we have this right here. We just click these right here, hold shift, press D, pull these away, right? Let's press E to extrude on the X axis, form new fingers. We'll press A to deselect, we'll hover here, press L. All these are is boxes. So it's easier to delete them and make new ones than it is to fix them. So I'm holding shift and alt to select all this. I'm going to press X to bring up the delete menu. Same thing here. I'm going to hold shift. Press X. I was holding shift and alt, by the way. So we have this. I'll hover here, press L, L, L. And then I'm just going to press X to delete that. We've got these faces here. So let's click here, hold shift and D. Bring this back here like this. Then press E, then whoops, X. And we can even, you know, take our fingers, press L, have these lined up again. Press A, deselect L. Now we'll press A to deselect. Well, we didn't have. Well, press L, 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 L. Hold shift and D. Right click. And now we have our basic, you know, fingers again. I think we're gonna hold control as well as the right mouse button to drag here. Oops, I didn't grab the whole things. If you grab a piece of this, yeah, I have this piece, but I don't have these pieces right here. What you can do is hold control and press L, and then you'll grab the entire piece of the mesh you're trying to grab. We've got issues with this here. Same thing. It's easier to just to delete this. Press L, L, press X. Delete the faces, and we'll just grab right from here, L. Hold shift, press D. And this is something we can kind of get away with too because I'm gonna press S to scale on the Z axis. Because we're dealing with like robot, oops, wrong thing. Press A to deselect L. Because we're dealing with robot hands. So let's hold shift, then press D. Duplicate, push this to the side like this. Then press A to deselect. Okay, so now with that done, what we'll do is hover here. We'll press L, hold here, press L, hold shift, press D. Right click to get the duplicate to stay in place. Then we'll press S to scale. Not S to scale. We move this out. Now we'll press S to scale. And just move these into place like this. Press S to scale. A little bit smaller. Hold shift, press D. Hold shift, press D. Right click to get it to stay in place. Then move it. Hold shift, press D to duplicate, right click to get it to stay in place. Then once we have all of this, I'll press A to deselect, I'll hover here, press L, 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 L. Hold shift, press D, right click to get it to stay in place, take the manipulator, move this up some, like this. If we want these to grow all accordingly, we can click here, go to individual origins temporarily, press S to scale. They did get closer together, so let's press S to shrink them back some. Let's click, go to medium point, press S to scale. Press S to scale the other way. It's fine for now. What we're going to do is push these back to touch here. We're going to hold shift, then press D to duplicate, then right click to get them to stay in place. Move these up here. Then we're going to hover. We don't have to hover. We'll hold Control, hold the right mouse button, select a piece of these, hold Control, then press L so we know we have all of this. We'll just push this back, something like that. We'll press A to deselect here. Okay, as I look at this now, I don't actually want these to be different lengths as far as since we're done with the robot, so or doing for a droid robot character. So I'm gonna hold Control, hold the right mouse button, select all of this geometry here. We just selected on the top. When we rotate, we can see we didn't select all of the geometry, but we can hold Control, then press L to select all of the geometry. And that's a way for us to select the geometry rather than going into wireframe mode. I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. I'm now going to hold Control, hold the right mouse button, select pieces of all this geometry here. I'm then going to hold Control, then press L. Then with this selected, what I'm going to do is hold Shift, then press D. Right click to get those duplicates to stay in place. Then I'm just going to take them forward like this. And then press A to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is hover here, press L here, hold Shift, then press D. Right click to get these joints to stay in place. Push these out to the side, press R to rotate on the Z-axis 90, then press Enter to lock that in. Push this in. I know I'm going fast here. There's an option in YouTube where you can actually slow down the video and the speech at the same time. We just have a lot more to do, and I would actually hoping that I can get as much done at the current time that I have right now. So with this selected right here, I'm going to hold Shift, then press D. I'm going to right click to get this geometry to stay in place. I'm going to push this to the side like this. I'll press S to scale it up slightly. I'll press A to deselect. I'm going to hold Control on the middle mouse button to zoom out some. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold Control on the middle mouse button to zoom back. We're going to hold Shift and middle mouse button to pan. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm going to hover my mouse here, hold Shift, then press B. I'm going to draw a zoom box to zoom in right here. I'm going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom in. I'm then going to click here to temporarily hide our mirror modifier mode. I'm going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom back. Click here and then rotate. Actually, this right here we don't want. So I'm going to hold Shift and then click all of this. The reason why I'm clicking this is because our mirror modifier is on, and this will interact with the mirror modifier. So we're going to press X, then choose the faces to get rid of that. However, in addition to that, what we want to do is click here to go to Edge Select, hold Alt, then select here. I let go of Alt. Now I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate. Now I'm going to hold Shift and Alt to select right here. And then with this edge selected, or all of these edges selected, that kind of edge loop selected, and up here, we're going to hold Control, and then while holding Control, press E. We're then going to choose Bridge Edge Loops. We have this shading that doesn't look right. That's because the normals are most likely not right. So we'll hold Control, and then while holding Control, press the N key to recalculate the normals for that. Then we'll press A to deselect, and then we'll click here to turn our mirror modifier back on. Okay, what we're going to do now is click here to go to vertices, select, I'll click here, and then pull this together just because that doesn't, looks off. There we go. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to click here to go to face select. I'm going to press A to select everything, then A to deselect everything so I know that nothing is selected. I'm now going to hover here, press L, hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view, then push these eyes forward, something like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hover here, hold Alt, and then we're on face select. You can see right there. With this selected, I'm going to press E to extrude. Right click so that extrusion stays in place. I'm going to press S to scale this up some like this. Push this forward some like that. Then I'm going to press E to extrude. Right click to get the extrusion to stay in place. Now I'm going to hold Alt. While holding Alt, press S. I'm going to hold Shift for fine scaling, and then scale those eyes up some more like that. I'm going to, with these eyes selected, I'm going to hold Control, then L, and I'm actually going to now shrink them down some. this, maybe push them in some like that, then press A to deselect. Okay, what I'm going to do now is hover here, hold control. While holding control, I'm going to press R. I'm going to left click once, then left click a second time. I'm then going to click here, pull this up some like this, holding the middle mouse button to take a look. I'm then going to press A to deselect, click here to go to face select, click here, hold shift, then click here. I'm going to press E to extrude, right click to get the extrusion to stay in place. I'm going to press S to scale in some like this. Then I'm going to press E to extrude again and come out some like this. I'm going to push in some like that. I'm going to grab here, pull this up some. I'm going to click here and pull this back some like that. I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold shift and the mouse button to pan to the side. I'm going to hover here, press L, hold shift and press D, right click to get that to stay in place. Push this to the side, look this way, press S to scale this down, press S on the Y axis to scale that in that direction. I'm going to move this up like this. I'm then going to hold shift, then press D to duplicate, right click to get the duplicate to stay in place. Push this down like this, then push this to the side, something like that, then press A to deselect. Okay, now I'm going to hover here, press L, then hover here, press L, hold shift, then press D. Right click to get the duplicates to stay in place. I'm going to pull these to the side. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis like this. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Z axis 90, and then left click to get that to stay in place of that rotation movement that I just did. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to take this, then push this over here like that. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, now I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back. I'm going to hover here, press L, hold shift, then press D. See how we continually duplicate things? And like I said, for the most part, it works out. We're going to press S to scale this down. We're going to press R to rotate on the Y axis like this. I just held the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to click here, pull this up, back some. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect, press L to select this whole thing, push this here forward. Actually, I don't want it there. I want it like this. Press R to rotate on the X axis like this. I'm going to hold Alt, then press S to make this thicker. I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis like this. I'll press S to scale to kind of want these like behind here, kind of around that area. I'll press A to deselect. Okay, we're going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in. I'm going to click to temporarily turn off the mirror modifier. I'm going to click here, hold shift, then click here. I'm going to press E to extrude. I'm going to right click to get the extrusion to stay in place. I'm going to press S to scale. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view, hold control to zoom in. I'm going to take the manipulator and push this out some. I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to click here, then press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. I'm going to click here to turn our mirror modifier back on. I'm now going to click the edge select here, click here, and then push this edge back together. I'm going to press A to deselect, hover here, hold control, then while holding control, press R. Put a loop cut right here. I'm going to left click once, left click a second time to lock that loop cut in. I'm going to press S to scale like that. Holding the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Then with that loop still selected, I'm going to push this back like that. I'm now going to press A to deselect. I think I'm going to hover here. Let me hold control. Press another loop cut in there. Press A to lock that in. Just roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back some. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan up some. I'm going to zoom in to the leg here. I'm going to hold Alt to select this edge right here. I'm going to hold Control and then press B for bevel. I'm going to pull out some. When I did that, if you look right here, you can see this bevel options right here. I'm going to take this segments up to 2. I'm going to click here and change this profile and change this to 1. I'm then going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold Alt and then click this edge loop right here. Then I'm going to press S to scale. I'm going to press A to deselect there. With right here, I'm going to hold Alt. I'm going to press the V key, which splits the geometry here. So now this geometry is split, so I can pull and just have a separation. And I find that it tends to help with things that are inorganic, because it looks like, they're kind of sealed together. Depending on how much detail you have, you can depends on what you want to do with this after you split it, or how closely it's going to be looked at. I debate with myself. I'm making a tutorial, so sometimes when you see me do things in tutorial, sometimes it's for the sake of speed. This is kind of for the sake of speed. Another way you could do it is to do just like how I did right there, so you know that everything is connected. Though, let's see. Now I'm thinking about it. Hold shift and middle mouse button to pan. One thing you can do after you do a split, see if you don't want that hollow, is you can hold Alt, select this edge loop, then just press F. I'll press A to deselect. Then I'll hold Alt, then select here, then press F. So now you don't have that flat area right there. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back to take a look at what we have, and I like what we have so far. So for the most part, I think we'll start texturing this. So let's hover here, press L, 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 as well as L. We'll press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. We'll hover here, press L, press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. Looks like we had a duplicated cube over there somewhere. That's where it's nice to have these items kind of off to the side, because you can use them, and then when you're done with them, you can not have too much concern about moving them out of the way, or getting rid of them, whatever you want to do. Okay, so we have this floating here, so let's grab this here. Let's press L, hold shift, then press D. Move this down. Press R to rotate on the X axis like this. Now let's press S to scale on the Y axis like this. S to scale on the Y axis like that. Press A to deselect. Roll the mouse wheel to zoom back to take a look. Okay, this right here looks kind of bland, so let's go to face select, hold shift to press D to duplicate this face. We'll push this out. Let's press S to scale on the Z axis like this. I'm gonna move here, hold shift, then press B, draw a zoom box, press S to scale. I don't want this to have a back face that we don't need, so I'm gonna hold shift and alt, which alt isn't working. I'm still holding alt anyway though. But let's press E to extrude like this. We have this face here, so what we'll do is we'll just go to face select, we'll click here, press alt, I'm gonna press X, choose delete, we'll click here, hold control, press N to reverse, recalculate the normals, right? So we have that there. Let's click here, let's press E to extrude, right click to get the extrusion to stay in place, that's the scale. Let's press E to extrude, push this down, so I'm gonna press E to extrude, press S to scale, then press E to extrude. I just did that to put some extra detail in here. Okay, I'm going to hold control and the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to hold control and the middle mouse button to zoom back some more. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to put a subdivision surface on here. What we're going to do that is we're going to use a shortcut. We're going to press A to select everything. We're going to hold control, and then while holding control, we're going to press the 2 key. So we now have a subdivision surface on our Droid robot character. This is the subdivision surface modifier right here. We could have clicked right here and selected subsurface modifier. I showed you the quick way to do it. So with this on, what we want to do is click here. This makes it look like the modifier is applied. Now we want to press Z and then select Shade Smooth. Now when we look at this character, a lot of things are softened up on the character now. If I click here and go to object mode, you can see a lot of things look softer. Some things look, better from it being softer. But other things like this, like our joints, and things like this, definitely things like this look better being harder. Definitely right here with our hands. So Blender has a very quick way, a nice way of us being able to sharpen edges up on this. So we're going to click here, then go back to edit mode. This trick I'm about to show you, I learned from Kent Trammell of Blender Cookie. The guy's spectacular, amazing. I'm extremely thankful to him for showing this tip. It makes things extremely faster. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in, and we're going to select an angle that is, normally would be a fairly sharp angle. So let's click, we can click here and temporarily turn off our subdivision surface. So we'll click here. Whoops. I'll press A to deselect. We're on face select. We need to be on edge select. We'll click this edge right here. We're clicking this edge because it has a very sharp angle. We'll click here. So that's what that edge looks like as far as being in subdivision with the subdivision surface modifier on. Okay, so with that edge selected and with the edge select on, this is kind of interesting the way this works, because we go to select and then we go to select similar. Though even though we are selected on an edge with edge select on, we want to go to face angle. So we're going to left click for face angles. Okay, now with that selected, when you look to your left, see this threshold right here? This threshold allows us to adjust what we have selected. So I'm going to zoom back and just see if it looks like most of what we want selected is selected, and it does to me. So with this here, there's a couple different options that we could use. We're going to use the option of the bevel modifier. So what that is we're going to hold control, and then while holding control, we're going to press B. Then we're going to hold shift for fine control. Then we're going to pull our mouse, and then we're going to, you can see right there, there's the bevel modifier. So now we're going to left click to lock in those bevels. Then when we look here, we can see this is our bevel panel here. It showed up once we used the bevel modifier. Now we want to go to segments, take this up to 2, and then go to profile and then change that from 0.5 to 1. And then we'll press enter to lock that in. Okay, and just looking right now, it looks like the technique from Kentramel did a nice job. Our fingers look like they're hard now, and it's quick. While at the same time, it left things that were more curved, and that tends to be what makes organic things look. I think really cool looking is the mixture of hard shapes as well as soft shapes. There's a little bit of interestingness going on right here. So what we can do to check that out is we can click here. And basically what is going on there is because of the mirror modifier, and we have a face right here. I'll click here to temporarily turn this off. These faces here, which is most likely from our solidify modifier, will cause issues. So we'll just delete them like that. Get this here. Holding shift. As I select that, I'll press X and choose faces to delete that. Zoom back some, let's see what else. Okay, for the most part that looks good, so we'll click to turn this back on. Now we'll click this being the mirror modifier. Now we'll click to turn the subdivision surface modifier back on. This looks a little strange there, so let's see. To turn this off again. And you can see that most of the time when you see that strangeness, there's a face that's in between the actual geometry and the virtual geometry. So with this selected, we'll press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. Let's turn this back. Oops. Yeah, that's fine. It will turn the mirror back on. Doesn't matter the order. It's just I tend to turn the mirror on first. Okay, I'm not going to get too into it, but if you have issues, you can, turn that mirror modifier on. This is definitely strange here. Most of the time by deleting faces, it'll solve your issues. You can just come in like this, delete, turn back on and see if it's solved. Then you can select everything, turn your mirror modifier back on, press G, then X, push your geometry slightly together, then press G and then X and pull it slightly apart. That's going to annoy me. I know it's a tutorial. Just need to deselect. Yep, face right there. In between the mirror modifier, so I'll press A to deselect. I'll click to turn this back on. Still. What is this? Sometimes it's better just to delete and then fill in what you deleted if you're having issues. See this here? I'm just deleting, trying to. I figure I'm trying to debate, should I keep this in the tutorial or take it out? I guess this will show you how you can deal with issues pop up. That's basically what we can do is hold Alt, press E to extrude, and press S to scale in like this. Then press E to extrude and then Y. And that should deal with those weird shapes for the most part we were getting. This right here, let's hold Alt. Let's click here. Click here, here, here. Zoom in. Click here. Click here, 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 here. I'm holding Shift. There we go. But there's still issues, but at least hopefully you can see from that how to deal with a lot of it. Let's click here to go back to object mode so you can kind of see, you know, how your droid looks. Click here, go back to edit mode. Click here, X. Don't like that in the face. That's geometry we don't need here anyway, so we'll just delete this. There we go. Let's come back to object mode, take a look. And see these things right here, I want these to be hard, so they're not, it didn't get it, it being Blender didn't get it, so I'm gonna, that technique we use anyway, I'm gonna hold Control, press B to bevel, I'll hold Shift, and then now we can manually have that. So now they have a hard shape, so that technique is nice because you can come in and get what you want as far as hardness, like this part of the legs, I would rather this be hard, so I can press L, hold Control, press B, pull slightly, and then, you know, have my hard surface there. Just taking a look. Thinking the same thing with this here. Just be aware that when you do this beveling method, it's going to increase your polygon count a decent amount each time. So holding Shift to get fine control. Yeah, much better. Do two legs as well. I'm gonna hover here, hold Control, press B, hold Shift and drag, press A to deselect and come here. Yeah, I like that better. So yeah, just be aware as I do this. This is a pretty high poly now. Click here. You can actually use seams to help you select it. I like how this is like soft, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edge Select. I'm going to hold Alt. Oh, I didn't grab the whole edge loop. It figures. Okay. I wanted to I wanted to just grab the bottom part and put a bevel on it. Zooming in, just figuring I can delete these faces because it's bunched up in the back here. Don't really hide. Take that so we can see what's going on here. Okay. Press X to bring up our delete menu. Vertices select. Okay, I want to grab this area here. These right here, let's see how they look. I like how they look. So I'm going to press L, 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 L. I'm going to hide them. I'm going to press H. This right here, I prefer to have a bevel on it. So I'm going to press, oops, not that. I like how that looks. I'm going to press H to hide that. I'm going to hover here, press L. I want a bevel on this. I'm going to hold Control, press B. Hold Shift and slightly pull. I want the bottom part of the face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Z, go to wireframe, select all of this right here. I'm going to hold Shift and press H so it being Blender hit everything but what we're currently selected on. I'll click here, hold Control, press L, press H. So now what I'm going to do is press Z, go to wireframe. Select this top part right here. Come back to solid view by pressing Z. Now I'll press C. I'll go to face select, I'll press C, paint select. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. Then I'll press H to hide that geometry. Okay, now with all of that hidden, I'll press A to select all of this. I'll hold Control, then press B for bevel. I'll hold Shift and pull. Look at that, that's interesting. I'll press A to deselect. I'll click here. I'm on vertices select. I'll press X, and then that brought up our delete menu. I'll choose vertices to delete. I'll click here, press X to delete that. Now I'll hold Alt, and then while holding Alt, press H to bring back all of our hidden geometry. I'll click here to go to object mode so we can take a look. Yeah, I like that much better, being hard. Let's roll back, take a look. Looks pretty cool, I think. Okay, let's put a UV. Let's put some textures on this using UVs to do that. Okay, we're going to use UV image editing. Typically what that means, not typically, what it basically means is when you think of clothes, when you lay clothes out, or when you look at clothes and they're laid out flat, they have seams in them. Those seams allow the people who make the clothes to put the clothes to, go around 3D objects, which are typically people's bodies, right? So UV image editing works very similar. It is a way of putting images onto your models. So that's what we're going to do. Now, normally we would go and put seams on. However, I find that dealing with inorganic objects, it tends to work fairly well using Blender's built-in Smart UV image or Smart UV mapping. And what that does is Blender will basically automatically put UV seams in here, which allow us to take this geometry and lay it out flat, which then allows us to put images or textures on the geometry. Okay, so to do that, we're going to hover here. See this little triangle looking thing? You're going to left click there, hold and drag to the side. Then you're going to click here. Now right now what you see is a duplicate of what was on the right. That's our 3D view. We're going to go up to UV Image Editor. We're going to left click here. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. And with this mesh object selected, we're going to click here, go to edit mode. We're going to press A to select our entire mesh. We're going to press U. This brings up our UV mapping menu. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Smart UV Project. So we're going to left click. These options pop up. We're going to use the default options. We're going to click OK. And now what Blender did is it took basically our 3D mesh and it laid it out flat here as a UV map of this mesh. Okay, what we're going to do is roll our mouse wheel to zoom this up. This is, a square here. So what we're going to do is we're going to click New. The default image size is 1024. Normally, you'd leave this at 1024, but since it's a fairly high poly model anyway, I'll turn this up to 2048. Click here, change this to 2048. Then click OK. So we have a square that's 2048 by 2048 here. Okay, this is going to be our ambient occlusion map. So what we can do is see this little asterisk here. This means that this is not currently saved. So it has a chance of disappearing if you close Blender and then reopening it. So we're going to click here. We're going to go to where it says it being Blender, says save as image. And then we're going to, choose a place to save it as. So I'm going to click here, and then name this folder textures. I made a new folder, or I'm making a new folder, naming it textures. Then when I click here, I'm going to name this AO because this is going to be an ambient occlusion map. So I'm going to click save as image. So with that saved, what we're going to do is we're going to click here, go to object mode. Don't be alarmed that you can't see that anymore. What we want to do now is click on our render button. We want to look down to where we see bake. We want to click here. See, it says bake here. Then it says full render here. Scroll down some more. We want to click here and then change this to ambient occlusion. Okay, we're now going to click here and put a check mark next to normalized. I'm going to scroll down some more so we can see the whole ambient occlusion. All of our settings right here. So really just the check mark here is what you need. Okay, when I say what you need, I really mean what I prefer. It'll still work without the check mark there. So with this set up, what you're going to do now is you're just going to click bake. You'll see the progress happening up here. Or you'll see the progress bar up here. You'll see the progress happening over there. Depending on how long this will take, depend on the power of your computer. Blender is figuring out what areas should be dark here on this mesh. Okay, and there we have our ambient occlusion map. We have this asterisk thing back here again because this isn't in our current saves. So we can just click here. Since we already saved the image, Blender knows where it should go. We should be able to just click save image and it should go. Let's click save as image just to make sure. And sure enough, there it goes. Save as image. There we go. So now we have that ambient occlusion map saved. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our folder where we have the ambient occlusion file that we just saved. We're going to make sure I'm actually clicked on this thing. I'm going to right click here. I'm then going to click open with uh, Gimp image manipulation program. So now we'll click here, and now we can see the ambient occlusion map inside of Gimp. Okay, now that we have this ambient occlusion map inside of Gimp, we can go online, and then I got this image just by searching for free metal textures. What I'm going to do with this image here is just right click and then select copy image. I'm then going to go back to Gimp. Here in Gimp, I'm going to click File, New, click OK. I'm then going to go to Edit, then click Paste Into, and now you can see that metal texture right here. When this metal texture comes into Gimp, it'll come in saying floating texture, pasted layer. I'm going to just click here to get this layer to not be a floated layer in Gimp. Okay, we have this white background right here. I'm going to click this eye so we just have transparency behind this image. So with this layer selected, that's our metal texture, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Filters. I'm then going to go to Map. I'm then going to go to Make Seamless. I'm going to then left click here. And what that should have done is make this image so that it can be tiled and look correct while being tiled. Okay, in case you're wondering, Gimp is a free image manipulation program very similar to Photoshop. Okay, so with this layer here being made seamless, what we're going to do is go to Filters. We're going to come down to Map. We're then going to select Tile. And then this menu here pops up that says Tile to new size. So we want to change the size to 2048 by 2048. And then click OK. So now we can see here's our tiled image of our metal texture. Okay, with our metal texture over our ambient occlusion layer texture, what we want to do is click on the metal texture, and our blending mode is normal. What we want to do is click here and then change this blending mode to hard light. Okay, so with that blending mode on, you can see that we can see our ambient occlusion. However, we can see our metal texture showing through. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go now and go to File, Export As. We'll name this metal texture and AO for ambient occlusion, and then click Export. I'm going to click Replace because I had done this previously. I'm then going to click Export again. And now this should be exported out where we have access to it, and we can also let Blender use it as a texture by just going to our file folder here. Okay, what we're going to do now is go back to Blender and make an edge map. So I'm going to just click back on Blender. So now here we are back in Blender. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go right to here. We're going to click Image. We're then going to click New Image. We're going to name this Edge Map. We're going to change our width from 1024 to 2048. Then change our height to 2048 as well. We're then going to click OK. Okay, I learned this not too long ago from Kent Trammell. And basically what it is the way ambient occlusion looks for dark spots where darkness should be from the way your mesh is set up. what we do is we use that effect and then we pretty much reverse it so that we're able to aim the ambient occlusion towards edges. And basically, what we do is we use that to look like worn edges, particularly on metal. Uh, so this helps to make the edges of the metal look like the paint might have been worn off some. Okay, so with our object selected, we're going to click here. We're then going to go to edit mode. Then with our entire object selected, I'm going to press A to deselect and then A to select again. With our entire object selected, so this is interesting. So we went in here. So what we can do, see how this went back to our ambient occlusion? We can just click here and then go to edge map. Okay, so with our entire object selected, what we're going to do is we're going to press W. This brings up our specials menu, and then we're just going to select flip normals. And you can see we have that, kind of strange looking shading when the normals aren't correct, because we purposely flip the normals the way that they're quote unquote not supposed to be. So now what we're going to do is click here, go back to object mode. Okay, now that we have our normals flipped, what we want to do is click here to go to our world settings. Even though this looks like it's grayed out, we want to click here. I'm going to press backspace. I'm then going to enter in 0.005 and then press enter. I'm then going to put a check mark here for fall off, and then for strength, I'm going to click here and change this strength up to 20 and then press enter to lock that in. Okay, now with that done, what we want to do is click back on our render settings. We're then going to go down to bake, make sure we have a check mark next to normalized, and then we're going to click bake. We can see our progress meter right there. Okay, now we have our edge map here. So what we're going to do is click image, save as image, and we already named it edge map. So we're then just going to click save as image. Okay, now what we're going to do is click to go back to our folder. I'm going to left click on edge map first, then right click. I'm then going to click open with Gimp, just by left clicking on Gimp. So now here the edge map is inside of Gimp. Okay, so what we want, you can see very faintly. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the color picker. We're then going to click on the white. And then with this white clicked on and selected, we're just going to hit backspace. That didn't work, so I'm going to click delete. So now we have this left over. So now I'm going to hold control, and then while holding control, hold shift, and then while holding control and shift, press A. So now we have this left over right here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to right click here. I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to hide this layer. Just duplicated this layer, so in case we don't like how this turned out, we can always go back to this one. With this layer clicked on, we're going to go to filters, noise. For this one, let's click RGB noise. We get this preview that pops up. I'm just going to click OK. Can't see much of a difference, but I figured, okay, we'll add some noise to it. So with this layer, we're going to click on here. We're going to click edit, copy. We're then going to click here, and then we're going to click edit, paste into, and then we see this floating layer here. And then what we want to do is click here, and now this layer that has our edges on it is no longer a floating layer. Okay, now what we're going to do is go to File, Export As. We have Metal Texture. So we'll just name this Metal texture AO and edge map, and then click here. We'll left click here to export, then click here. Okay, now we're gonna click here to go back to Blender. Okay, now we don't want to have our mesh stay with the normals not being correct. So with our object that is our mesh selected on, we're going to click here, go to edit mode, and then with our entire mesh selected, we're going to press W. We're then going to select flip normals. So now you can see our normals. Hopefully you can see that the shading looks better, showing us that the normals are facing the right way now. We're going to press A to deselect. I'm then going to click here and then go back to object mode. Okay, we don't need this anymore, so I'm going to left click here and drag to the side. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back some. We're currently in Blender Render. I'm going to click here and then go to Cycles Render. Cycles Render is just a way that Blender has of showing light in a different way. It generally tends to make things look better. It takes a little bit more power to run. And when I say make things look better, it makes things look more realistic is a better language to use than say better. Okay, so here in Cycles, I'm going to scroll up. I have an NVIDIA processor, so I'm going to click here and then change this to GPU compute. This makes Cycles run faster. NVIDIA processors most of the time are supported. I believe AMD, some AMD processors are now supported as well. If you can't set this to GPU compute, you'll still be able to work through your Cycles that would just run a little bit slower for you. Well, a little bit is relative, but long story short, your GPU will make things run faster. However, don't be alarmed if you can't change this. You still can work with Cycles. Okay, so here in Cycles, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back. I'm going to click on this light here. I'm going to press X, which brings up our delete menu to delete that light. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to hold Shift, and then while holding Shift, press A to bring in a plane. I have a plane right there. I'm going to press S to scale. I'm just going to scale this up some. I'm scaling this up so that we can have light emit from here. Holding the middle mouse button just so I can see this plane better. With this plane selected, I'm going to click on our materials option here. I'm then going to click New. Where it says diffuse here, I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to change this to emission. Okay, we want to have something to bounce off of the light other than our model, so I'm going to right click here. I'm going to hold Shift. While holding Shift, I'm going to press A. I'm going to bring in another plane. I'm then going to press S to scale. Scale up this plane. Just put our mesh standing on that plane like that. Okay, what I'm going to do now is hover my mouse here. I'm going to left click and drag this down. So I have another window here. I'm then going to click here. What you see up top there is a 3D view. I'm going to go down and click Node Editor to switch this to the Node Editor. I'm going to click on our mesh right here. Right here, I'm going to click Use Nodes. I could have also put a check mark here for Use Nodes. Okay, when you look at this here, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in. This here is basically reflected in this here. So what I want to do is I want to put our image map on here that we made, our ambient occlusion, our steel texture, and our edge map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click here, drag this out to the side to make yet another window. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel here. I'm going to hover here, then press N, then press T. Sorry, that took away that panel. When I press T, I'm going to press N. Whoops, okay, the panel was already gone. So I just wanted us to be able to use this as a preview panel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, and currently we're in solid view. I'm going to change this to rendered view. And you can see our mesh there. I'll zoom in some more. Okay, I'm going to bring in some nodes here, and I'm going to click Add, Input. I'm going to select Texture Coordinate, put this right here. I'm then going to click Add, Shader. I'm then going to, I want texture. I want an image texture, so I'm going to click this here. I want to mix this image with some glossiness. I'm going to click Add, Shader, and then I'm going to select Glossy BSDF. I'm actually going to push this here, push this over here like that. And I want to mix these two together, so I'm going to click Add, Shader, and then I'm going to select Mix Shader, and then put that here. Okay, I'm going to take this back. I'm going to unconnect this diffuse shader here. I'm going to put the mix shader here. Put the glossy here. I'm going to go from where this says texture coordinate. This says UV. I'm going to left click here and drag from UV to vector. Where this is where our image is going to go, but for now I'm going to go from color to color here. And then for our diffuse, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and put this here. I'm going to take our glossy and put the glossy here. I'm then going to go from our mix shader, from the shader to surface. Okay, the reason why our mesh looks this color is because Blender's saying it can't find our, a texture. So I'm going to click open. I'm going to click on textures. I'm going to click where we have our metal texture AO and edge map. So I'm going to left click here and then click open image. Okay, we can see our ambient occlusion working here. With this factor right here, we can control how much of our image texture comes in. So the more we increase this factor, the more of our bottom texture shows through. And I'm going to roll the mouse with a zoom up here. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. We can make our image clearer here by clicking on our render button here, going to sampling, and then see where this says preview. I'm going to click here and change this from 32 to 200. And then I'm going to press enter to lock that value in. And basically the higher this value is here, the clearer things will be right here. When we look here, hopefully you can see this, we can see color here, but we really can't see any kind of 3D-ness to the texture. Okay, to get that kind of rough look to this texture here, all we have to do is look at our image texture, and then we'll click from where we see color. We'll left click and drag from there, and then we'll go to this material output, and then from our image texture color output, we'll go into displacement, the displacement input of the material output. And now just with that, now you can see that we actually have a roughness to the texture here now. Okay, I want the joints to be shinier. When I say the joints, I mean right here, then the rest of the body. I want this as well to be shinier. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to hold shift on the middle mouse button to pan. And what we kind of do is, in cycles, what I do is I kind of use this to work, and I use this to see as I work. Now, what we can do as far as texturing other pieces is we can go in and individually select pieces of this mesh and then put whatever color we want on there. So with this mesh selected, I'm going to click here, then go to edit mode. Okay, these pieces here I actually don't want, so I'm going to click here, To go to face select, I'm going to hover here, then I'm going to press L to select those pieces. I'm then going to press X to bring up our delete menu. I'm then going to choose faces to delete. Okay, I want this piece right here to be much more shinier than these pieces here. So with face select on, I'm going to hover here over this object here. I'm then going to press L to select that entire object. Okay, now I'm going to go to our materials tab right here. This is the material we currently have on. I'm going to click this plus button, which is the plus button that's, to the right and up. I'm then going to click new. I'm then going to click the fuse. I'm then going to click mix shader, and you can see that over here, what I do here is being reflected over here. I'm going to click here. I'm going to select glossy for the first shader, and then for the second shader, I'm going to select glossy as well. Okay, so now with these nodes set up, what I'm going to do is go here and click assign. So then now, just this piece right here has that glossiness on there. However, I think this is a little bit too glossy, or at least a little too smooth looking. So what we can do to rough this up is I'm going to move this up some like this. Grab this, pull this back. We're going to add in a texture node, image texture node. We're then going to add in a normal map node like that. Okay, so with this image texture node, we're going to click here. We're then going to click our metal texture AO and edge map.png. We're then going to click open. Okay, now what we can do now is, I'm going to push this up so we can see more of it. We can go from our color output for our image texture into our color input for our normal map, and then come from our normal maps normal output into our material outputs displacement. And then if you look here, you can see there's roughness now, and we can control the roughness of this look with the strength here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is click on strength. I'm going to change this to 0.2, then press enter to lock that in. So now we have a lot of glossiness with a little bit of roughness there. Okay, now that we have this material made, I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. All of our joints, I would like to have this material on them. So I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm then going to hover here, then press L to select right here this one piece of mesh. Okay, now we could manually select here and all the different pieces right here that are similar to this. However, Blender has a way to make it easy for us to select the different objects that are similar to this. So what we can do is go to mesh. Whoops, not mesh. We can go to select similar, and then go down to where this says face regions. We can then left click face regions, and now all of the objects that have face regions like this are all selected. So with them all selected, what we can do is, with this material clicked on, we can click assign. And now they all have that material to them. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan again. Okay, what we're going to do now is make sure we're on face select, which we are. We're going to hold Alt. Then while holding Alt, we're going to click right here. So we selected all of these edge of faces right there. So with those edges of faces selected, we're going to go to the upper right plus, click here, click new. And then where we see the fuse, we're going to click here, then click emission. We're then going to click for the color. Pick a reddish color. Then we're going to click assign. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan, and then you can see that right there. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect, and you can use these different techniques to color the different pieces however you want to color them. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to left click here and then drag over. When I left click and drag, you can see that arrow right there that makes this window expand that way. I'm then going to hover here, left click here, and then drag up. I'm just going to zoom back some. Taking a look. Holding shift and the middle mouse button to pan. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click here just to change the background there. I'm going to click here and change this to like a bluish color. I did that just because I didn't want to have everything look gray here. Just wanted to look at it with some contrast there. Okay guys, that's it for the tutorial. For all of those of you out there who like the videos on this channel and we share them, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And to those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel and you would like to see more, please subscribe and thank you for viewing.